Hi, and welcome to this edition of Creative Commons Cooking. Today we're going to be talking about collections, adaptation, remixing, derivatives, and kind of where the considerations all are. Now, first thing I want to do is define kind of what a collection is as opposed to other things. So, a collection is when you take a group of ingredients, in this case, CC licensed works, and mix them together. So, in the kitchen, we'd have our you know chocolate chips, our gummy bears, and our raisins. And when we take all those and stir them into a bowl, we have a collection of things. But they are all identifiable, they're all separate, and if we wanted to, we could take them back apart. Now, our specific collection, the percentage of them that went in, our instructions for creating the mixture, uh, those sorts of things would be items that would be licensed under the name of the person who created the mixture, the collection in this case. But the individual items themselves, the chocolate chips, for example, are still chocolate chips and still belong to, in this case, Kroger Company. So that's what a collection is each individual item in the collection retains its own license. And then the license on the collection as a whole, which only applies to the items selected, the arrangement, and any additional materials that have been added, such as introductory or explanatory text, those are licensable by the person who created it. Now, by contrast to a collection, uh, remixes, adaptations, and derivatives are something very different. That would be when a derivative would be when we take our chocolate chips and we take our, in this case, whole grain oats, and we take our gummy bears and our raisins, and we combine it with some flour, some eggs, a little bit of milk, and sugar, stir it up, turn the oven on to 450 degrees, and which would be probably too high for our cookies, but throw them in on a baking sheet, and we come out with delicious, very strange cookies because those gummy bears are going to be a little bit weird in our cookies. Um, but we have now created something that cannot be separated from the original pieces. It can't be taken back apart. So we now have a derivative work. It's created from the originals and based upon them. This is a derivative. Another example of a derivative work or an adaptation would be a translation. It relies very strongly upon the original work, but is not the same thing. It required a significant amount of additional creativity and additional work, and it cannot be separated from the original. So these would be examples of derivatives and adaptations. They're significantly different from a collection because they have to be licensed under terms that are compatible with the original licenses. So if you have something that you've created, you have to license it under a pretty much more restrictive license than the original, or something that is equally restrictive. So if something is listed as a non-commercial item, you have to put a non-commercial license on it. If something is listed as share alike, you're going to have to put a share alike license on it. So it's worth paying attention to things like that. Now, remixing is the idea that you're going to take more than two things, or two or more things, I guess, and you're going to combine them. And now you've got multiple licenses going into your mix, and you're going to have to select a new license for the resulting thing that works with all of them. Now, if they're all CC BY licensed, not a problem. But if you are throwing in a share alike license into the mix, the entire thing's going to have to be share alike. And you need to make sure that everything you put into that mix is going to work together. So if you have one item that is share alike, one item that is share alike non commercial, you might have an issue depending on your intended use of the product. So these are things we want to look at. There are charts that you can check to make sure that your licenses work together. And so it's worth doing. The other thing to be aware of, though, is that you can do anything you want with a Creative Commons licensed material so long as you're using it yourself. If you are not going to be sharing it beyond your own personal use, then you're not creating a derivative work at all. And you don't have to worry about your licensing. So that's something to bear in mind. If you want to make your cookies and you want to, if I put a non-derivative license on my cookie mix that includes gummy bears, and you're like, no way, I'm not using gummy bears in my cookies, you can just leave them out and swap in apple bits or something like that. It's totally up to you, so long as you don't share that license any further. So just be aware of that. That a non-derivative license can uh, put a stop to a remix straight up, unless you're doing it just for yourself. And a non-commercial license can, and a share alike license can also get in the way of some intended uses. So things to be aware of there. Finally, since this is a cooking class, you will find attached to this video a link to a collection of cooking prompts. I would love for you to look at this. This is my personal collection of ideas to spur creative cooking. So go ahead, take a look, and have fun in the creative kitchen.